When the conversation turns to the strange and seemingly inexplicable, certain subjects crop up like ghostly activities, unexplained anomalies, and mysterious people and creatures. For those like us who have an interest in such matters, here are 10 unsolved mysteries that may not get quite as much press as others. Top 10 Strange Unsolved Mysteries. Number 10. Hornsey Coal Poltergeist, January 1921. On January 1st, Mr. Frost bought a load of coal, which was delivered to his house, 8 Fairstone Road, Hornsey, London. From the beginning, it was clear to Frost, his wife, and 3 young children, or grandchildren, the family's relationships weren't considered in newspaper accounts, that this was no ordinary coal. When burned in the fireplace grate, the coal exploded, or even more unsettling, jumped out of the grate, took a stroll across the floor, and vanished, only to reappear showers of sparks in another room. Frost sought help from a police inspector who experienced some frightening incidents firsthand. The terrifying activity escalated. Objects like coal scuttles moved without being touched. A knife and a loaf of bread flew across the room. Knickknacks fell off shelves. Events like these were witnessed by Reverend A.L. Gardner, vicar of St. Gabriel's, and Dr. Herbert Lemery. Speculation abounded the coal came from British mines, and it was supposed by some that disaffected miners had mixed dynamite with coal to cause explosions. Later disproved. Others believed the poltergeist activity was caused by the spirits of angry mine workers, while skeptics blamed the boys. The 5-year-old girl, Muriel Frost, died on April 1st, purportedly frightened to death by the poltergeist activity in her family home. Her brother Gordon was hospitalized following a nervous breakdown after his sister's death. I haven't been able to discover what happened to the Frost family following these tragedies. Number 9. Rain of Seeds, February 1979. Roland Moody of Southampton, England, was startled to hear small, solid objects hitting the glass roof of the conservatory attached to his house. The objects turned out to be hundreds of seeds, small mustard seeds, and cress seeds coated in jelly-like substance. More seeds continued to fall during the day, eventually covering his garden. One of his neighbors, Mr. Stockley, told Moody she had had a similar experience the previous year. The following day, Moody's home was struck by corn, pea, and bean seeds that seemed to simply fall out of the sky. His neighbors on both sides were also pelted with peas and beans. Only those 3 houses in the neighborhood were targeted by the bizarre showers of seeds, and a police investigation was unable to pinpoint its source. The phenomenon gradually decreased and went away. By that time, Moody and his neighbors had endured 25 separate barrages and collected 10 pounds of beans from their gardens. Moody himself gathered 8 buckets of cress seeds. He claimed the produce grown from the seeds was good quality. Both Moody and Stockley were interviewed by author C. Clarke's Mysterious World television series in 1980. To date, no adequate explanation for the weird showers have been found. Number 8. Strange Death of Netta Fornario, November 1929. Nora Emily Editha Netta Fornario, a writer, friend of Dion Fortune, and initiate of a branch of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn called the Alpha A Omega Temple, believed herself a magical healer. In August or September, Netta left London and traveled to Iona, an island on Scotland's west coast, where she met her death under mysterious circumstances. Explanations for her strange demise range from psychic murder, hostile spirits, or exposure to the elements and heart failure, listed as the official cause of death. Arriving on Iona, Netta lodged on Traymore with Miss McCrae. By day, she explored the island. By night, she entered into trances and attempted to contact the island's spirits. She continued this routine for several weeks until Sunday, November 17th, when her behavior inexplicably changed. She packed her bags, intending to return to London. She told Miss McRae that she'd been disturbed telepathically and received messages from other worlds. The landlady noticed Netta's silver jewelry appeared to have turned black overnight. Later, she stated she changed her mind and would be remaining on Iona. At some point the next day, Netta went missing. Her body was found on Tuesday on a fairy mound near Loch Stonnock. She was naked beneath a black cloak and lay on a cross carved from the turf with a nearby knife. Her skin was marred by scratches. The soles of her feet were cut and had bled as if she'd run over rough ground. Was she killed by a psychic murderer, lost her way and succumbed to hypothermia, or died accidentally during a ritual? What caused her injuries? In the decades since the tragedy, the debate continues. Number 7. Odon Fire Poltergeist, April 1941. At his farm near Odon, Indiana, William Hackler finished having breakfast with his family and left the house. On his way to the barn, he smelled smoke. When he hurriedly returned to the house, he discovered fire in the upstairs bedroom wall. Note, the house had no electricity. The local volunteer fire department was called in and the blaze quickly extinguished. However, that was the only start of the Hackler family's day-long ordeal. After the truck left, another fire broke out, this time in a mattress in an upstairs guest room. It seemed as though the fire had been set from inside the mattress. Throughout the day, more fires broke out all over the house, some under the gazes of astonished witnesses. By 2 p.m., more firefighters were called in, and by the end of the day, 28 seemingly spontaneous fires were extinguished, including one that startled between the covers of a book. The fires ended as mysterious as they began. Hackler tore down the house and built a new one from the reclaimed lumber. Neither he nor his family experienced anything like the Odin fire poltergeist again. Number 6. The Third Eye Man, November 1949. Students from the University of South Carolina and Columbia were walking near the Longstreet Theater late one evening when they were stopped in their tracks by the appearance of a gray-faced man wearing a silver suit, who removed a manhole cover and disappeared into the sewer. At the time, the strange man was dubbed Sewer Man, and he would soon be given a much different name following another more terrifying encounter in April 1950. This time, a policeman discovered a man in silver near the remains of mutilated chickens. He shone his flashlight on the figure. To his horror, the strange man had a third eye in the center of his forehead. The policeman went to a squad car and radioed for help. By the time other officers arrived, the man was gone. Another encounter by students in the 60s in the steam tunnels under the university kept the memory of Third Eye Man alive. Although the tunnels were thoroughly searched, no physical evidence of a Third Eye Man's existence has ever been found. Is he a ghost? A creature? An alien? A prank? No one knows, but sightings continued into the early 1990s. Number 5. Connecticut Jabber, February 1925. Women in Bridgeport, Connecticut were terrorized for months by a phantom stabber who used a sharp-pointed weapon to jab their buttocks or breasts before fleeing the scene. Witnesses gave a confusing variety of descriptions to the Connecticut Jabber as he became known. One thing the statements had in common, whoever he was, the Jabber seemed unusually fast on his feet, disappearing while the victim screamed in shock and pain. He had no particular victim profile and preferred no particular location or time of day. Every few months, another woman was attacked in the street or in a public place like a department store, church, or a library entrance. Despite continuous police investigations that eventually garnered several suspects, the Jabber was never identified. By June 1928, the Jabber's victims numbered 26. The attacks abruptly stopped and were never repeated in that city. While various explanations have been put forth over the years, mass hysteria whipped up by media frenzy, a sadist indulging his whims, a ghost with a grudge against curvaceous women. No perpetrator was ever caught. Number 4. Angelique Cotton, the Electric Girl, January 1846. A 14-year-old peasant girl from Le Perrier in the Normandy region of France began distressing her friends with her strange powers. Angelique Cotton became known as the Electric Girl for the poltergeist-like effect she had on objects such as making a weaving frame dance around the room or a heavy table float through the air. Chairs moved away when she tried to sit on them. Beds wouldn't stay still either, and people received electric shocks when they came near her. Paper and pens flew off tables when she held out her left hand. Angelique also suffered convulsions and injuries due to the frequently violent movements made by her body. Her parents believed she was possessed and took her to church, but a priest convinced them the girl's powers had a physical cause, not a spiritual one. The next step was examination by scientists in Paris, including famous physicist François Argot, who said the phenomenon were genuine and the result of electromagnetism. Against the scientists' advice, the Cottons decided to exhibit Angelique to paying customers. In April 1846, just a few short months after the ordeal began, an unexplained phenomenon inexplicably stopped, and she lost her electric powers for good. Number 3. Bladenboro Fire Poltergeist, January 1932. In Bladenboro, North Carolina, Miss Charles Williamson, an ordinary housewife, was terrified when her cotton dress suddenly and inexplicably burst into flames. She hadn't been standing near a fireplace, stove, or other ignition source, and she hadn't been smoking or using flammable chemicals. Fortunately, her husband and teenage daughter acted quickly, ripping the flaming dress off her before she suffered any injuries. Curiously, neither did Mr. Williamson or the daughter, who'd put out the fire with their bare hands. The ordeal by fire continued the same day inside a closet when a pair of Miss Williamson's trousers burnt until only ashes remained. The next day, in front of witnesses, a bed spontaneously began to burn as well as curtains in another room. For 3 more days, fire sprang out of nowhere, burning blue flames that couldn't be extinguished until they entirely consumed the household object in question. No one was injured by the flames either. The Williamsons had enough by day 4 and left the house. Police, electricians, and arson investigators searched the house, but were unable to find a logical explanation for the fires. On the 5th day, the fires simply stopped. The Williamsons moved back home and weren't troubled by the apparent fire poltergeist again. Number 2. Margaret Foos, Blind Reader, January 1960. Although there was nothing wrong with her vision, at age 15, Margaret Foos was skilled at blind reading books through touch alone while tightly blindfolded. With her father's encouragement, she practiced and nurtured her talent. William Foos believed he discovered a way of teaching blind people to see through their skin in a form of extrasensory perception. As his first pupil, Margaret was to demonstrate his method. In 1960, Foos took his daughter to Veterans Administration Center in Washington, D.C. to be subjected to scientific tests by psychiatrists. While wearing a foolproof blindfold supplied by the VA doctors, Margaret used her hands to read sections of the Bible, identify objects and colors, trace lines, play checkers, and other tests. Her father was in the room, but he left occasionally and did not appear to be giving her signals. In the end, the VA psychiatrist admitted bafflement, but insisted that although Margaret had passed her test, they couldn't explain how she'd done it, and therefore couldn't admit she could see without using her eyes. Was she fooling everyone, or did she have a genuine extrasensory power? Who knows? But the FBI thought enough of the idea of blind reading to investigate William Foos and his claims. Number 1. Ghost Sniper of New Jersey, 1978 to 1928. An unidentified ghost sniper haunted the Garden State beginning in November 1927 in Camden, New Jersey. The car of Albert Woodruff and several other vehicles had their windshields shattered by bullets that weren't found on the scenes. A city bus on the Camden Bridge had its windshield broken too. Another bus on the Federal Street Bridge came under fire. More homes suffered attacks and a store window was broken. In all cases, no one was injured except by flying glass, and the bullets vanished into thin air. The mysterious sniper visited Collingswood and Lindenwood, New Jersey, and also briefly traveled to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His targets were mainly private automobiles, taxis, trolleys, buses, and residences. Although he did fire on at least one policeman, only a single witness testified to hearing the report of a shot. Another believed he'd heard a man's sinister laughter, but the other victims said they heard and seen nothing. The attacks only stopped in 1928, despite police investigations and a few copycats whose missiles, like a blue marble and a screw, were discovered at the scenes. The ghost sniper and his phantom bullets were never found.